Hey everyone. Uh, I've heard that this particular headset creates some weird noises, so I'm sorry. My AirPods are having issues right now, so you have to deal with the weird audio for at least this video. Hopefully, I'll have it fixed by the time the next video comes around. But in this video, I wanted to show something that I have been working on for the last couple weeks. That's something that has been requested by you all. Lots of you started using Cherwell in very early versions, some as far back as, say, the 8.0, 8.1 timeframe. I know some of you have been on Cherwell since well before then. Some of you started using Cherwell after then, but in this video, I want to focus on the 8.0, 8.1 time frame, specifically because those business objects, specifically the change business object, had kind of this paged layout. So you could go through different pages and different controls would show or hide depending on what view you were looking at. So that's what I want to show off today. But before I get into it, I want to remind you all that every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I host the Cortex Users Group. It's an opportunity for you all to talk to me, to talk to your peers about anything related to Cortex, whether you're currently using Cortex or thinking about using Cortex. Also, I want to mention that in a couple of weeks, I will be at Service Management World. I will not be exhibiting, um, unfortunately, but I will be attending, and I will definitely be in the expo hall, walking around between the other booths, interacting with the other folks who are exhibiting. Um, we've got relationships with our partners there who will also be there. And so I'll be walking around talking to people. If you want to schedule some time to talk specifically, either about Cortex or about some of the other things we're doing that are coming soon, and maybe get a sneak peek into some of the things we've been working on behind the scenes, um, there will be a link. Actually, there's a link on the channel in one of the community posts. There's a link to book a time, and I'll also see if I can drop it in the in the links below. Otherwise, there's also links below to contact me, to get invited to the Cortex users group, and to find out a lot more information about Cortex. So with that, let me switch over to the demo screen, and we'll take a look at Cherwell 8.1, basically. So I'm running this on my development machine. This isn't the main demo site, but on my development machine, I have an 8.1 out of the box database. And this is one of the sample change requests that are in it. So most of this looks pretty much as you'd expect. Now, one note about 8. Everything is that it was before globalization and adaptive layouts. And for a long time, I've been saying that those two features were kind of the dividing line between versions that Cortex supported and versions that Cortex didn't officially support. Now I can say that it's not 100% there. It's not all the way there quite yet. But in version 1.7, Cortex version 1.7, we will absolutely definitely support database versions, um, content versions, and platform versions coming from some of those earlier versions. So right now, the change form looks phenomenal. It looks pretty good. There is actually, I think, related change still has some brokenness that I'm working on squaring away. Um, but let's hide that because that's ugly. But let's focus our attention to the main change request form. Now in 8.1 specifically, I think that it was in a few different versions, but this is 8.1. This kind of main area was set up so that it could be paged through. And This is actually something, it's been a while since I saw the 8.1 content actually in Cherwell. So I'm going to request help from you all to remind me kind of what it looked like and what I should actually be expecting to see from these buttons. So, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So from the very beginning, I have said that Cortex will solely be a read-only system. It is always going to be an archival system. It will never write to your Cherwell database. And that continues to be true. It will never write to your Cherwell database. The problem is that in this particular case, there are buttons that toggle values that are part of the record that are intended just to be in memory. They were never intended to be written to the database. Um, but somehow they need to be toggled kind of ad hoc in memory so that, for instance, you can click expanded view and you actually see the expanded view, the whole thing. Now, of course, this uh, does have a bit of an issue with the print view. I think if I click print view, this might actually go away. Well, of course, we see the ugliness there, but it doesn't go away, but I still can't print the entire form here, which is a bit of a problem, but that's the way it was configured in Cherwell. There isn't really a whole lot I can do with that, at least right now. Of course, in the newer versions of Cherwell, they changed this. So if I go over to, this is the demo site now, change request, let's go to a change request. I think this is a different one, but instead of having multiple different pages, essentially, there's one giant page with all of the information on it. This works just fine with print view, right? You've got the summary, you've got the overview form, and you've got your activity, and you've got everything else. So this works totally fine with print view. But with the 8.1 and that time frame content, we're doing what we can with the configuration that we're given, and showing it faithfully. This is exactly the way it would show up in Cherwell. But the only downside is that that does create a bit of an issue with print. However, you could certainly take screenshots of the data here. All of the data is present, which is the key, and you can take screenshots, and it's available for audit, for historical lookup, all of that. And of course, you can go back to step view. Now, one caveat with this, well, actually two caveats. The first one is that I'm not entirely sure what these buttons are supposed to do. I can see them doing things in the back end, and eventually I get to a point where I only get a back button. You know, the visibility rules change. If I hit back again, I can keep hitting back, and eventually I just get a next. So I can tell that something is supposed to be happening. I suspect this is supposed to be driven, or other things on the screen are supposed to be driven by um, like auto-populate rules. That's not something that Cortex supports right now. Again, because it is first and foremost a read-only system. So auto-population and that sort of thing isn't really something that we had built into the system. The other caveat is that there isn't really any specific indication as to which buttons or clickable elements on the screen do this sort of behavior versus do the general type of changing that is possible through one step. Things like take ownership, email, create new task, those sorts of things. The only thing that you will notice is that those buttons don't work very well because I implemented just enough ability to run a one step to toggle between these views. That's really it. So the only step that's implemented is update the current business object. We don't need to be creating any other data. We're certainly not going to be sending emails or anything like that. So we didn't implement a general full-fledged one-step engine. It is just we need to be able to set fields on the current business object so that we can toggle that view. Of course, that does mean you could get yourself into trouble. If you, for instance, do take ownership, you will see weird things show up, like function current user display name. That's solely because I haven't implemented that. That's actually coming from the browse one steps piece. It's not actually evaluating that function because that's not a thing that we need to support. So you can get yourself into trouble if you click the wrong thing, but you're not going to click the wrong thing, right? Similarly, you there will be some things where you click them, they appear clickable, and it doesn't do anything, right? Clicking this email address, which I am clicking the email address, isn't going to do anything because it tries to run a send email one-step action, which just flat out isn't implemented. Same thing with the phone number, right? And you'll find other things that appear clickable. This info button, for instance, that runs a one-step that runs a prompt. Prompts aren't supported. So only clicking the things that do this sort of thing will actually accomplish anything. So keep that in mind as you're clicking around. If you have ideas on how we can refine this, I'm all ears. And if you want to try this out and see, make sure that it works for your specific database, we'd be more than happy to have you do that. Obviously, this will eventually be part of a release, probably an alpha or a beta, before it even goes out to the official final release of 1.7. So you can try it out then. But if you want to try it out today, we can certainly get you a kind of a nightly or in progress build to test out on your dev database, for instance. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention. I found this pretty cool. This is actually clickable too, and you can click through the statuses, and you can see other things change. Like it's actually pretty exciting. You can see things happening. It feels pretty cool. Of course, this doesn't write anything to the database. Let me repeat that. Nothing gets written to the database. It continues to be read-only. All of this functionality exists even if you give Cortex a read-only user to the SQL database, because this happens all in memory. In fact, there is no way to click. There is no save button to click. There is no way to save this anywhere. And if I refresh, well, first of all, it'll probably log me out. No, it didn't. But you can see it all goes back to the default. It goes back to Steve Fisher's information, it's back to the assessing state. All of the things that I changed have just been wiped out. So that's basically it. Well, I mean, those are two major things, right? Support for 8.x databases and support for this interesting. I was going to say weird, but this interesting. It's different. This different strategy of hiding and showing fields based on the status or the value of a particular field in the record that you can toggle from the record. So I hope you like that. If you have any questions, comments, want to see more, leave comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Remember to request an invite to the Cortex users group if you haven't already. And please come. We'd love to have you show up and talk with us about anything Cortex or Cherwell related. And if you're going to be at Service Management World in a couple weeks, let me know and we'll find some time to get together, have coffee, drinks, food, whatever, talk at on the expo floor, whatever. We'll find a way to meet up and talk in person. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.